The Genziana Valley in Angola was a place the locals had avoided for 1,000 years. They called it the throat of the earth. In the local folklore, it wasn't a place you entered and left. It was a place that digested you. In 1964, during the height of the Angolan War of Independence, the Portuguese military dismissed these stories as primitive superstition. They were hunting for guerrilla fighters, and their intelligence suggested a rebel camp was hidden deep within Genziana's misty embrace. Kwesi Madaki, a master tracker from a nearby village, was forced to guide a platoon of 32 elite Portuguese paratroopers into the valley. He was a man in his 50s, his face a roadmap of deep wrinkles, his eyes clouded with cataracts, except for one which remained unnervingly sharp. As they stood at the edge of the valley, Kwesi pleaded with the commanding officer, Lieutenant João Valente. He told the young, arrogant officer that the air was wrong, that the breath of the valley was heavy. The birds had stopped singing, a sign that even nature itself was holding its breath. Valente, with his pristine uniform and thin mustache, just scoffed. He was a man of technology, of modern warfare. He believed his rifles and radios could conquer any jungle, and he wasn't about to be deterred by the ramblings of an old man. On the morning of October 12, 1964, under a steel-gray sky, 32 soldiers marched into the mist. They thought they were the hunters. They had no idea that in the Genziana Valley the atmosphere itself was the predator. As the sun reached its peak, something unnatural happened. Instead of burning off, the fog grew thicker, clinging to the jungle floor, and it began to change color. It wasn't the usual white mist of the highlands. It transformed into a sickly, bioluminescent green, glowing with an oily, metallic sheen. From his vantage point on a ridge, Kwesi watched in horror. The soldiers below, enveloped by the green haze, began to cough, clutching their throats. Then they started to stumble. They didn't fall like men struck by bullets. They simply folded. One moment they were standing, the next their bodies were collapsing in on themselves as if their very framework had ceased to exist. Lieutenant Valente tried to shout an order to rally his men, but as he opened his mouth, the green fog rushed in, filling his lungs. Within seconds, his knees buckled. There was no gunfire. There were no screams of agony. Just the soft thud of bodies hitting the wet mud, followed by a terrifying, wet, crunching sound. The sound of internal structures failing while the men were still conscious. They were being unmade from the inside out. 3 days passed. The green mist finally receded, revealing a scene of profound and unnatural stillness. A recovery team wearing primitive gas masks was sent in, guided once more by a terrified but resolute Kwesi Madaki. They found the lost platoon scattered throughout the glade. They looked like statues, frozen in their final moments. One soldier was found leaning against a tree, his rifle across his lap as if he were merely resting. The lead sergeant, a man named Thorne, cautiously approached. He reached out a hand to shake the soldier's shoulder, perhaps to wake him from this strange slumber. The moment his finger made contact, the impossible happened. The soldier's entire chest cavity collapsed inward like a punctured bag. His ribcage, which should have been solid bone, had turned into a soft, malleable paste. Horrified, the team inspected the other bodies, only to find the same grotesque reality. Femur bones, the strongest in the human body, were now as flexible as wet cardboard. Every organ, the heart, the lungs, the brain, had been liquefied into a yellowish enzymatic sludge, all of it contained within a perfectly preserved bag of human skin. The soldiers hadn't been killed. They had been digested by the very air they breathed. But Kwesi Madaki saw something that was deliberately omitted from the official Portuguese military reports. As the recovery team worked, another group of men arrived. They wore silver, full-body hazmat suits and spoke a language that wasn't Portuguese. It sounded German or perhaps Russian. They weren't there to recover bodies. They were collecting samples, carefully extracting the yellowish sludge from the hollowed-out soldiers into sterile containers. These were the architects of a top-secret program codenamed Project Genziana. Decades later, in 2026, declassified documents leaked to the public would reveal the horrifying truth. the Genziana Valley hadn't been a natural anomaly. It was a testing chimney, a contained outdoor laboratory. These foreign scientists, working with elements of the military, had cultivated a synthetic airborne enzyme. Its specific purpose was to target and dissolve hydroxyapatite, the mineral that gives bone its strength and structure. It was designed to be the perfect occupation weapon. A chemical agent that kills the population, dissolves the bodies into the soil, but leaves the buildings, the roads, and even the uniforms on the corpses perfectly intact for the next army to move in and use. No mass graves, no evidence of a massacre, just empty cities waiting to be claimed. Today, the Genziana Valley is a designated red zone, strictly forbidden to all. The Angolan government, under continued pressure from powerful foreign entities, keeps its location a closely guarded secret, wiped from every official map. But the story doesn't end there. General the Butcher Mbemba, a revolutionary leader who fought the Portuguese and is now an old man confined to a wheelchair, claims the experiment was never truly shut down. Surrounded by fading maps in his study, he holds up a small vial of greenish-tinted soil from the valley's edge. He says that on humid nights, the ground still exhales a faint green glow. He believes the synthetic enzyme bonded with the local flora, creating a horrifying, self-sustaining cycle of biological dissolution. The jungle itself has become the weapon. The 32 soldiers who marched into the mist in 1964 are still there. Their atoms now part of the soil, part of the trees, their bones nourishing the very ground that consumed them. The skin may have rotted away eventually, but the ghost of the fog remains. So if you ever find yourself in the deep bush of Angola, and the vibrant sounds of the jungle suddenly fall silent, hold your breath and pray the wind doesn't change. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, be sure to subscribe for more stories from the Deep End Chronicles.